Hello and welcome to your first bassoon lesson with Mr. Stuckert. Let's get started on learning the parts of the bassoon. So here we have the boot joint, the tenor or wing joint, the long or bass joint, and the bell. This part here is called the bocal. It's very fragile. It's made of thin metal, so be very careful when handling that. And this part is the reed. And what I'm sitting on here, this is the seat strap. So we'll talk about that later, but first things first, we're gonna assemble the instrument part. We're gonna start with the boot. You're gonna set that on the floor. Next thing you wanna grab is the tenor joint here. And we're gonna put the tenor joint into the little hole on the boot joint. And this curve of the tenor joint is gonna line up with the other bigger hole on the boot. So now you're gonna take your long or bass joint, you're gonna slide that into that bigger hole. It's gonna line up right with your tenor joint, just like that. And so there's this little lock part here that we're gonna slide into your bassoon. May or may not have one of those, and it may look different from mine, but just be careful of that. So last thing, I'm going to take the bell here. You have to press this key before you put it onto the long joint. You're going to twist and gently slide it on there. Good, we're good to go. So now we're going to put the bocal in. You have to be very careful with the bocal. Don't push on this part of the bocal because you can snap it really easily when you're, or bend it or snap it when you're putting it in. So we're going to grab it by the base where this cork is. We're going to push it in that way. Great. And now you want your bocal to be lined up with this key right here for the best playing position. Okay. We have that all put together. Now we're going to place our seat strap on the chair like that. Seat strap placement is really important. For me, I'm taller, so I'm gonna have a shorter seat strap so that the bassoon comes closer to my face. Right, like that. See, that's even a little too long for me. There we go. Okay, now the reed is made completely, the entire length of it has cane in it. So we need to soak the entire thing. And there are two ways you can do that. You can either put it in a little cup of water, but you need to submerge the entire reed, or you can put the entire reed in your mouth like this. Now I've already pre-soaked my reed, so it's good to go, but usually you want to soak it for about 2 minutes before you get started playing. So we're going to go ahead and put the reed on. Whenever you're holding the bassoon, the reed should be parallel to the ground. Whatever the bassoon is doing, doesn't matter. Reed should be parallel so it lines up with your mouth. So now we're going to put our fingers on the bassoon right here. This is finger 1. Your index finger goes on across that hole, 2, 3. Your pinky will play with those 2 keys there. And now your left thumb has all of these keys to work with. So we'll get to those later. But then your right hand is going to be on these 3 holes, or those 2 holes, and this key here. Your pinky will play with those 2, or those 3 keys actually. And then your right thumb will use these 4 keys back here. So now you're holding it correctly. A problem students have a lot, the bassoon is actually meant to be held diagonally across your body. Students will hold it vertically like this, but that can lead to some bad playing techniques. So we want it nice and diagonal across the body. So you want to make sure the holes are completely covered, the C-strap's adjusted correctly. Now we're going to talk about embouchure. You need to roll your lips over your teeth like this. Pterodactyl lips like that, and then you put the reed in your mouth. Just like that. You're going to put about half of this light colored part into your mouth for the proper embouchure. Okay. And a problem a lot of the time students have is they'll either put too little reed in their mouth, sound like this. So it's not very pleasant sounding, or they'll put too much reed in their mouth, which is even worse sounding. So you want about half of it in there. That's the sound you're going to want to get from that. Okay, so another problem kids have is that they don't have enough embouchure, so to combat that we use something called the drawstring bag. That's where you want your lips to seem like a drawstring bag around the mouthpiece, or around the reed, so that it's putting pressure on all sides. So to get a characteristic sound of the bassoon, we want a nice steady airstream. So it should be like, as opposed to, that's a really light airstream. It's not going to work very well. So it's going to sound like this. When you're putting pressure on the reed, you want to put a little pressure on the top. We never want to push up with our bottom lip, but rather down onto the reed. So some problems people have when making a characteristic sound is they're not using enough air, which we already covered, and they're not covering the holes completely. It'll sound like this. So very unsteady, not a good situation. Also, people will bite the reed sometimes. Really a sharp sound there. It's really not too good. Also, when students are trying to develop their characteristic sound, reeds actually should be replaced in the professional world about once every 1 or 2 weeks. For a student, probably once a month, you want to replace your reed. If they get too old, they just stop making the correct sound. Also, if they're a little broken or something, you really want to get them replaced is the best option for that. So take care of your reeds for sure. Now, when you're tonguing on the bassoon, it's called articulation, is our fancy term for it. But it's going to be the tip of the tongue to the tip of the reed, like this. Some problems we get is that they're tonguing from their throat, like this, with a g sound, which sounds okay, but you can run into some problems when you're trying to play fast passages later on. Or they will tongue with their lips, like this. So it just doesn't quite get the correct sound. So yes, I'm sure that's a lot of information, but good luck getting to work with that. You have all the fundamentals you need to start learning the bassoon. Thanks for watching.